in the bottom left-hand corner as the Red Zerg, the man, the legend, 2020 World Champion, Dark. In the top right-hand corner instead, in the blue, the Terran player from Team Compact, it is RYUNG. Two incredibly strong teams, of course. Dragon Phoenix Gaming safely in the top 3 of the tournament this far in this WTL, with Team GP a little bit behind in the standings, but still able to get some very interesting performances. And RYUNG is sure to be one of those players who can be easily frightening to even the strongest of players, such as Dark, of course. We already see something a little bit cheeky on the side of the Zerg player with a 16 pool incoming from Dark. Such a versatile player. He can play aggressively, he can play the slow game. He just decides to get this 16 pool, possibly to just blind counter some proxy plays, to get some earlier scouting. There's a lot of things that Terran can do on a map such as Beckett Industries. Short maps tend to favor Terran a little bit more compared to Zerg, for the straight reason that just everything the Terran does can travel the map a little bit quicker, and it's the race that tends to try and zoom the most in the early game, if it sounds a little bit weird. That's the way it works. So, perfectly understandable 16 pool. Trying to playing this matchup a little bit slower than usual, getting something for defense early on. I highly doubt Dark will try to get anything too aggressive on the board. On the other side, RYUNG with a Reaper, Marine, just a Reaper expand, opener, very standard. Gonna get an SCV scouting, then a Reaper. Probably gonna try to get some scouting for the third base timing out of Dark. It's gonna see that this was an early pool. Doubting that RYUNG doesn't know this is nothing too aggressive. He's getting a full scout as well. Of course, Zerglings and Queens cannot stop this Reaper from traveling the whole area of the main. Not much to be seen. RYUNG knows there's nothing to be scared of. He's gonna get a factory to maybe get some Hellions, maybe start getting something proactive on the map, a little bit of map control. Of course, Dark will get some scouting of his own with the Overlord, trying to send it to the pillar. Oh, just barely survives. Not for long. There's gonna be something stopping it. 4 links. Gonna get some scouting information for Dark as well. Oh, actually they're gonna get on top of these Marines. Yeah, that's an excellent trade for Dark. Actually forcing these SCVs to lose a lot of money, getting a mule. One other great victory for Dark, already putting a statement in this early game. The Reaper finally comes back home. But this actually third SCV, considering the mule as well, is going to fall. That's a beautiful trade for Dark in the early game. Also gonna see the switcheroo between the Rex and the starport. Sadly not going to see that this is going to be Banshee Cloak started by RYUNG, but of course, he probably knows that's one of the only reasons. You probably don't want to get a Raven in this matchup this early in the game, so that's almost certainly for a Banshee. 2 aliens traveling the map, getting to map control. Not gonna lose more is the leitmotif that RYUNG is gonna try to adapt to in these next few minutes of the game, of course. Dark, fairly aggressive build, very early lair. And of course he's already pumping out quite a fair amount of roaches. These aliens are not going to find any easy way in. Queens are gonna get stopped by the Reapers. Of course there's a lot of links. Oh, these aliens are in deep trouble. They will try to escape through the acceleration zone. Oh, these links almost gonna get another one. In the end, Dark will not lose much to force these aliens out. But only one of them actually dies. The Overlord will scout the Banshee and will die for it. But Dark already has quite a lot of spore crawlers in placement. Roaches making the walk through the map is an interesting play. Of course, there's only the Banshee to defend, and these 4 roaches can force out a lot of mining time. That's not a big expense on the side of Dark. That's a really interesting play. Very proactive from one of the most proactive Zerg players, and it's getting quite a lot of workers, like 5 and counting, as well as an alien, a couple marines. Definitely a good trade for Dark. In the end, it's going to be pretty even in the resources lost. That's always going to favor the Zerg player. Probably Dark is very happy about this early game. RYUNG needs to get something done on the map. He's losing control fairly quickly. These 2 Banshees do not have real answers aside from the spore crawlers. They can still get something done, like a couple workers and then escape, then a couple workers and then escape. They're always a threat, especially in the hands of a good player, which RYUNG most certainly is. Gonna find themselves trapped over here, and Overseer following them. But they're still going to pose a threat, something Dark has to keep in mind for the remainder of the game. Sorry. Of course, RYUNG getting his bio upgrades. Probably gonna get a... Well, I think he already got a third base. Just turning it into an orbital command. Get some more map control with his aliens. Maybe some scouting information. Maybe force the excellent creep spread that Dark has already been putting on the map. I have serious doubts RYUNG can get something done with aliens at this stage. Of course, getting a couple crit tumors. It's always going to matter in the long run. Especially for these Banshees, desperately trying to look for an opportunity to strike. There's a spore crawler over here. A couple workers are still going to die. Oh, these roaches finding the aliens wide open. A couple workers indeed have died. Oh, the Banshees, yes, they finally escape. With a 4th base incoming from Dark, an interesting positioning in the bottom right. Dark does not want to take the linear pattern 3rd base. There's a huge choke point next to this base. Very understandable why he doesn't want that base to be taken. Also to make his actual 3rd base a little less exposed. Especially with the creep spreading in that direction. Sooner rather than later though, Dark will have to take that base. Of course, with a Nidus network and a lot of roaches incoming, this could be a very scary play from the Zerg player. RYUNG, a little bit a lot on aggression, very standard build order this far. Gonna catch an overload wide in the open. Dark is really exploding in supply this far. Getting another research from this Roach Warren should already prompt RYUNG into knowing this is going to be indeed tunneling close. One of the Banshees actually full before getting anything significant. And Dark Nidus network finally up. There's an overload on the top left. RYUNG will get vision of it. Will force it backwards. And Dark still not finding a good opportunity to get something done. Bound a little bit too late. The drop from RYUNG, with roaches already being in position. An infestation pit incoming from Dark. This Nidus network play still well hidden. Oh, roaches beautifully hiding over here. RYUNG will pass through those without seeing them. Of course, Dark doesn't want his opponent to know how many roaches he has right now. Oh, yeah. I think RYUNG has seen this Nidus network going on into the main. Oh, the wall is open though. Oh no, that could be a disastrous play. Here comes the scan, but a lot of roaches getting a little bit everywhere behind the mineral lines in the 3rd. And of course, the Nidus network being cleared in the main means that they cannot swarm into the main. Ravager piles trying to rain from the sky on top of these tanks. Marines steaming forward and forcing the Ravager backwards. Not enough roaches to bulk it up. And in the end, the roaches behind the mineral line of RYUNG will also be scared away. Not a lot of damage found by Dark's play. And he's really going all in with the roaches. A lot of production used for those roaches. Another Nidus worm will be killed. The Banshee will dodge these biles. And now Dark will have to do something with a very, very not scary army, I'd say. There's Roaches and Ravagers, not really anything that should scary RYUNG too much. Of course the supply is kind of dwarfing the one of RYUNG, but that's not really a big matter. Roaches inflate this supply by quite a fair amount. There's an Hive, and of course the Hydrogen incoming. Probably gonna try to switch into Lurkers, Infestors, Vipers, all these kind of high-tech units that can really make a dent into the defenses of RYUNG. But this far, RYUNG, perfect defense. Really not losing anything to the play of Dark. Oh my goodness, that was a beautiful trade for Dark, but he went a little bit too deep and loses quite a fair amount of Roaches for that. 4 Infestors in the making, meanwhile a 5th base coming from Dark as well. That's not a place you want to fight on. Dark smartly decides to back away from the army of RYUNG, while Queens will get the last bench, which is actually pretty significant. Roaches and Ravagers trying to get us to run. Ravager piles raining from the sky, not getting many good connections. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, probably a couple of Roaches were able to get 4 SCVs. Of course, the Infestors can be very scary paired with the Ravager piles. A lot of fungals can be used, and here should come the first one. No bile will actually follow these. Too many tanks on the high ground. RYUNG has set up a very powerful position, while Dark desperately trying to look for some reinforcements or even economical damage. Not gonna find any, sadly. The medivacs are almost a lot of energy, so any damage is pretty much permanent on this bio army. Not a lot of steam can be used, but the tanks are still by far the scariest part of this push. As you can see, Dark cannot get anywhere close to that, and he might have to forfeit that base, which is definitely not what he wanted. RYUNG finally managed to catch up on supply. Upgrades fairly even for now. It's gonna be slightly better for RYUNG for a little while before +3/+3 hits for Dark. And of course, Adaptive Talons on the way. All these Lurkers upgrades are very important, with a Viking actually scaring the Overseers away. Oh, another beautiful siege position set up by RYUNG. Dark, with the army he has a lot of troubles finding a powerful surround. He cannot get on top of these tanks fast enough. And this base is once again in serious danger. RYUNG leapfrogging the tanks forward, while Dark is looking yet again for some more counter damage, while forfeiting another base. That's a lot of workers that could be dead in a little while. Fungal Growth gets a lot of damage done. Dark currently on 3 bases against 4. That's starting to get to the point in which Dark cannot really do much. A Doom Drop coming into the main of the Zerg player RYUNG. A very smartly executed play, while Lurkers try to get on the reinforcements way. A beautiful Fungals in the main. Meanwhile, for Dark, he's gonna get a lot of damage on top of these medivacs, and actually almost getting 3 of them, with only 2 actually dying. Roach is still trying to get some worker killed here and there, but Dark is not really getting to the point of the supply he wants to be in with this less advanced army. Another base is going to be cancelled. Dark will get a 4th, but will not get a 5th. More Roaches getting damage. Actually, 11 SCVs, quite a significant amount of workers killed by the Zerg player, getting on even economy with his opponent at this stage of the game. It's not even that bad considering how terrible was the situation he was in before. This game is not over yet, but RYUNG certainly is gonna need to have the strongest army, at least for a couple minutes. Lurkers not powerful enough yet, at least not high enough in numbers, mostly. While Dark still struggling to get a maxed out army and an economy that can support it. These 2 Lurkers will thread a little bit too forward on themselves, and both of them are going to fall. Dark not really paying too much attention. He was dropping fungals here on the right. He's going to get something done, but this base, once again, that's a very important base, and it's in a very awkward spot right now. With tanks already setting up a very strong sieging position. Lurkers cannot keep up with that. Without Vipers, the army of Dark cannot easily face the one of RYUNG. Oh, that could be a game-ending moment if Dark doesn't do something about it, doesn't set up a surround. Lurkers on the right are trying to scare away RYUNG that cannot easily leapfrog these tanks, but still, this base, sooner rather than later, is going down. Fungal growth, huge combo between Fungal and Lurkers, with RYUNG trying to outmaneuver these Lurkers, and he's going to finally scan the one on the right, stopping it from cutting off his reinforcements. 10 workers have died, and looks like Dark wants to go all out on the rest of the army of RYUNG. He's gonna catch a lot of units out of position, but meanwhile RYUNG on the right getting yet another base. Not a lot of Lurkers in the main army of Dark. Beautiful fungus, absolutely fantastic caster usage by Dark. But in the end, it's still not going to be that good of a trade for the Zerg player. Another drop here behind the fur base, and he's going to get a couple more workers before flying off to the horizon. Dark still trying to remake the Lurkers, but he's pretty far from the critical mass he needs to break a tank sieged position. The one missile turret is gonna pose a problem, the other as well. Of course, there's still a lot of scans available for RYUNG trying to set up a surround his Dark, but he's not gonna find any, and he's actually going to lose a Ravager and an Infestor for absolutely free. Here on the right, Dark spread too thin, he's going to lose yet another base. What a beautiful game by RYUNG this far, really pulling Dark apart. Beautiful defense in the beginning, and now he just isn't going to let his opponent breathe. Another engagement is set up by RYUNG. There's not much to be scared of. He's just going to go all out on these Lurkers, trying to do their best to keep the health of the army of RYUNG as low as possible for these Fungals to do the trick. But in the end, Dark is going to have to forfeit yet another base. 2 more Lurkers that are never going to make. And now the supply is getting devastatingly in favor of RYUNG with almost double the economy. Point of no return is getting very close. Finally, we see the first Viper in the production tab for Dark. Might be too little, too late though. 20 minutes in. Dark, 3 bases against the 5 of RYUNG. Not even on pair with workers. And now RYUNG is setting up another siege position on the last spot where Dark is mining. This trade was horrendous for RYUNG, but still, he's going to absolutely outmatch the army of his opponent. And reinforcements can now easily make their way through the map. There's nothing to cut them off, there's nothing to scan him, to scout him. And as you can see, RYUNG is just waiting for those reinforcements to come here and clutch this game at last. Dark trying to take a 4th base again, with RYUNG being able to get a cancel or even a kill on his 4th and 5th bases for the last 10 minutes or so. RYUNG knows that Dark, even if let some time to breathe, cannot easily get anything done. This tank is doomed. But it was mostly just forgotten, it looks, by RYUNG on the top left over here. Of course, right now, RYUNG trying to set up the finishing blow, trying to take it slow. These Lurkers are gonna get scanned and get absolutely annihilated by the army of RYUNG. The Vipers getting beautiful blinding clouds, but was it enough? I doubt so. These Lings do not have melee upgrades. I don't know if they get adrenaline glands. But man, the army of Dark is heavily under Oh my god, under research. Of course, beautiful fungus gonna get a lot of damage. But still not going to be enough. RYUNG spreading his army in two different positions. The one of Dark a little bit more unified. Gonna get these abducts on top of the tanks. But still, this is not a trade that is going to favor Dark. It's going to be a GG timing and not enough army for the Xur player. Insane game number 1. Incredibly clean performance by RYUNG. Not something you would expect to a player that doesn't really consistently do well in GSL. At least compared to the likes of Dark. We've seen a 16 pull in the first game from the Xur player to stay as safe as possible from proxies. This time is really looking like an Arch first. Archcast pull, very standard opener once again. Not really too much. He's gonna shake the game plan of Dark, it seems, with RYUNG going for a Reaper expand himself. It is indeed an Archcast pool against a Reaper expand. I'm actually a little bit surprised that we haven't seen anything more aggressive on these two maps between these two players specifically. RYUNG likes to play macro, likes to play a very standard kind of Terran. He's a very clean player in that as well. As we've seen in game number 1 actually, it was a very clean performance. Dark though is one of those players who can always shake things up with interesting builds. Like he kind of did it in game number 1. It was a little bit too late probably. Like his night display was a little bit too cold for maybe. With RYUNG doing a really good job at keeping at least control of the map and seeing how many roaches were actually on the map at that time, and also seeing tunnel enclosed being researched in that first game. That was actually pretty huge. Beautiful save by Dark on the drone. It's going to go for the 27 Hutch with 6 links. It's another interesting macro build, skipping an overload to get things done a little bit quicker. Mostly known as the Clash opener. Something that has become more and more present in ZVT matchups. For the straight amount of workers you can get super early in the game. Of course, you're gonna be a little bit slower on that metabolic boost, but you don't really have much to fear. RYUNG producing 2 aliens at a time, of course, once again, to get that map presence that is usually so strong against a race such as Zerg that wants to establish creep as much as possible. Of course, the 6 links are to keep a little bit more in control. The Reaper, without metabolic boost, you kind of need the 2 more. That's a build I highly suggest to any Zerg player in this matchup, really. Of course, you're gonna suffer to proxies and likes of that, but if you start your third at 27, you're gonna hit by a proxy after that. Either you're very, very slow, or your opponent's proxy is terrible. So you don't really have too much to fear. Starport is incoming as well as Steam. Again, a very standard execution of the game plan this far from RYUNG. It's gonna lose the Reaper. Doesn't really hurt too much. A double Evo Chamber from Dark. A blast from the past indeed. To counter the drop play that we're about to see in a little while from RYUNG even more strongly. Still no Bailey Nest. He still decides not to go for any defensive structure due to the double Evo Chambers. We're probably going to see double upgrades, a lair, and then probably a Bailey Nest. Here comes the double upgrades. lot of workers on the way for Dark. He's really not feeling too scared of anything. RYUNG is gonna get a third base done by now. NGB a little bit on the late side. That is prompting me to believe that RYUNG wants to hit with +1/+1. Yeah, here comes the second NGB. So not gonna be just a +1 infantry weapon drop. It's gonna be a +1/+1. Willingness and Lair on the way for Dark. Alongside a lot of workers, he's surely to have some strong choices to defend his fourth base once he decides to go get it. RYUNG is gonna drop actually without upgrades. Only steam and then combo shields on the way. There's a double Evo chamber with +1/+1. You can easily slow down this with just Zerglings. And it's a double expand. Oh, no, it's just a macro hatch in the main for Dark. Oh, this base is in real danger. It might have to be cancelled. Dark was not really in position to defend this. He's going to arrive there a little bit too late. Now he has to move right into the main, very abusable drop position. But RYUNG just wants to play with his opponent, toy with his food, waiting for a drone to get here to actually punish it. But Dark is not gonna fall for that trap. A lot of queens making their way over here, spreading creep like God, I don't know how to say it. A Dark creep spread is absolutely insane. Already covering the middle of the map at 641. It's actually more than decent. Especially considering that, oh my goodness. Oh, that was a very interesting play from Dark. Of course, getting a lot of Marines over here. Not a very good play by Dark. Really setting up the rhythm for this game perfectly in his favor. Actually, ahead in upgrades with a Terran player. Of course, the NGPs were a little bit too late for RYUNG. But man, that is a solid performance from Dark this far. Very, very clean macro. 12 Banelings in the making, a little bit of an awkward spot. Gonna get caught out in the open and forced to cancel. An Infestation Pit incoming Dark, trying to rush to his late game units, Ultras, Vipers, maybe even Double Spire. All of these are fairly decent possibilities, but of course there's a lot of Zerglings swarming there at the third base of RYUNG. That's gonna be a lot of that workers, and that one tank surely is not helping in this defense. 14 workers killed. Here comes the Banelings. They do not have +2. They don't have one shot, but it still did a lot of damage. The count is gonna rise to 16. Meanwhile, RYUNG setting up a siege position at the fourth base of Dark. Is he going to get it? This is actually a fairly decent trade. The base here in the bottom left, not gonna fall. RYUNG bites blow for blow. And now he can look out for more damage with his drop play and a multi-prong attack on the top right. Already halfway through with the hive. Oh my goodness, these pings deal a lot of damage, guys. 5 more workers killed. Dark 14 workers ahead. RYUNG most definitely has to do something about it. He's been losing way too much economy, while Dark is completely outgrowing him, and that is not a position he can drop. Overlord's getting free scouting information, and now the fourth base finally about to go up for Dark, and he can easily defend the one on top right. Knows there's nothing to scare him on the bottom left yet. But of course, the base is almost done. It requires a lot of time, and RYUNG is a little bit too shy to get all in there. It's just gonna try to get a couple creep tumors before backing off. A lot of units found in the open. RYUNG shouldn't have problem defending them. Oh my goodness! Oh, beautiful connections with these Banelings for Dark. And RYUNG losing on 2 different fronts, with Dark spreading his army perfectly and finding again a lot of damage. Gonna get, or at least try to get it in the mineral line in the third base. Just gonna get a sensor tower. Meanwhile, on the top right, another attack from RYUNG. Doesn't get much done. Adrenal glands on the way. The first Vipers, I think they were already done. And Dark easily transitioning into late game. Almost going to have a 5 base economy in a little while with 73 workers. Only needs a couple more. It's gonna go at 78. Now he can pump out those units, those upgrades, perfectly spending his resources. Incredibly clean game by Dark. Not much to be found. RYUNG safely keeping his marines inside those medivacs this time. Doesn't want to make the same mistake again. And Dark is gonna go for the Ultra's Cavern. Well, being these ahead, of course, not a bad choice at all. Tanks also have some upgrades that can easily get a lot of damage on top of these lanes. And banelings as well, since the nerf. A lot of marines caught in the open, not gonna get any connection. He's Dark. A lot of units traveling through the middle of the map for the Zerg player, almost maxed out with an Ultra Cavern. Transition behind these, he can start to get something done. Of course, keeping those two medivacs under control with a bunch of lanes on the map is going to be pivotal for the kind of attack he wants to get on. Beautiful surround with the lanes and the banelings coming clutch. Oh, these parasitic bombs absolutely destroying the medivacs. And now Dark completely swarming his opponent. A planetary over here in the top left. He's gonna keep these lanes at bay, but you can see the transition in the production tab. First Ultra on the way, Kittiness plating almost halfway through, and there's also 3 baneling mines ready to make RYUNG's day even worse in this game. 70 lanes just finished making, and now Dark maxed out again with a beautiful economy, a beautiful trading opportunity, and Ultras for the transition soon to come. Vipers, of course, going to be the real MVP of this push forward of so many Zerglings, not even a lot of banelings. And Zerglings plus parasitic bombs are certainly doing the trick, guys. Medivacs spread thin. They cannot get any healing on top of these marines desperately trying to steam. All of the tanks got cleared. And it looks like Dark will get his revenge. GG gets called. The score is 1-1 between those two players.